Check it. Look. On the block, we just had to, it wasn't no choice. If it was beef, you had to burn it, or it'll cook you first. We was raised to take, no bull, ask questions, later shoot first. If it was tension and you didn't pull, then your face was on the t-shirt. No man to teach a man, so the streets had to teach him. But it ain't no love in the streets. They just take what they need from you, then they give you a rap sheet as long as D now. So the credit checks and job apps, they come with D now. And so we revive, and they wonder why we wild. We lions in the jungle and we gotta eat. Whether it's a mask or a glass dish, I gotta feed my little Simba so he can grow and become a king. I'm just trying to keep him from becoming another me. But it's hard to be what you can't see. Gotta change these bars in the King's speech. To heal these scars of pain cuts deep. Gotta touch them before they touch me. They gon' feel me before they cuff me. But it's a better way, just trust me. Yeah. Look, this is the way that we end up in this before we start. I'm trying to keep you from writing bars behind bars. You send a kite to your people and you get no response. This is a warning before destruction, before it comes. I want you to feel my pain, so I spit bars behind bars. I'm just caged in the cage, that mean it's bars behind bars. Yeah, the meaning ain't the same, that mean it's bars behind bars. Been free 100 years and still a slave, that's bars behind bars, yeah. Just take a second to recollect before your Nike check with the tech. Let this broadcast another route to respect. Teach you another route to success, cause taking the streets could be treacherous. Because once you get it, they wanna come get it. They're running your crib for a necklace. You wanna get bands on deck, to get out the stands, no rest. And get on the field and play your position. Legitimate plays, legitimate checks. It's just amazing what you can do when you change your mindset. Like you in the gym and you looking for games, but it's no shots, it's just all reps. Hit the dealership like it's all there. No foul balls, but life ain't fair. How you stacking bread all on the ground with 400 grams with no safe there? That's crazy, right? Because they step. But if you keep it clean, it's no worries. You can lead your squad with a business plan that don't include snow flurries. But if you lock down, it's no service unless you talk to the water. They say it ain't no roses in this concrete garden. It's not who's the hardest, but who can break the cycle, then change the tracks and then restart it and gas it up and keep it going, yeah. Yeah. Check it. Look. On the block, we just had to, it wasn't no choice. If it was beef, you had to burn it, or it'll cook you first. We was raised to take, no bull, ask questions, later shoot first. If it was tension and you didn't pull, then your face was on the t-shirt. No man to teach a man, so the streets had to teach him. But it ain't no love in the streets. They just take what they need from you, then they give you a rap sheet as long as D now. So the credit checks and job apps, they come with D now. And so we revive, and they wonder why we wild. We lions in the jungle and we gotta eat. Whether it's a mask or a glass dish, I gotta feed my little Simba so he can grow and become a king. I'm just trying to keep him from becoming another me. But it's hard to be what you can't see. Gotta change these bars in the King's speech. To heal these scars of pain cuts deep. Gotta touch them before they touch me. They gon' feel me before they cuff me. But it's a better way, just trust me. Yeah. Look, this is the way that we end up in this before we start. I'm trying to keep you from writing bars behind bars. You send a kite to your people and you get no response. This is a warning before destruction, before it comes. I want you to feel my pain, so I spit bars behind bars. I'm just caged in the cage, that mean it's bars behind bars. Yeah, the meaning ain't the same, that mean it's bars behind bars. Been free 100 years and still a slave.
Francois McDonald here. Listen. This episode of Felons to Favor, you have to tune in. You will want to tune in. I'm bringing to you a special friend of mine, former neighbor, grew up with this guy, but you heard him on the show before. And last time we talked to him, he was doing 19 years. He was doing life in prison. Now he's home by the grace of God. So none other than Josh Rosales. Please help me welcome him to Felons to Favor.
100 grams with no safe there. That's crazy, right? Because they step. But if you keep it clean, it's no worries. You can lead your squad with a business plan that don't include snow flurries.
It is my absolute pleasure to introduce to you someone that has done 19 years fighting justice reform and also fighting the reputation that he used to have. You've seen him on the show before. I want to welcome back Mr. Josh Rosales. Josh, how we doing, sir?
Doing good, good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You are one of our favorite Felons to Favor. Last time we had you on Felons to Favor, you were actually calling in on a collect call How does it feel to be home?
Man, it's great. It feels amazing out here.
Well, we're happy to have you home. Congratulations on getting you back home. The last time we were in discussion, you were fighting to have your sentence overturned. You had a life sentence. I want to catch up and go back and then catch up to where we're at now. But can you discuss your upbringing, or let's go back to introduce who Josh Rosales is, who he was, and where you're from. Do a quick introduction. Give us a brief bio of Josh Rosales.
Okay. Before I get started, though, I do want to give my condolences to the victim's family in my case. I want to say that I'm truly sorry for the pain that I've caused that day, and I live with regret in my heart, with empathy forever for what I've done and my role in that crime. So before I get started about my growth and my backstory, I want to say that off top. But with that being said, so you asked about my past. I grew up in Montbello in the 80s and 90s, back when, as me and Francois talked about last time, back then it was predominantly black people out there. You know, there was a couple of us out there, but it wasn't many of us. But that's how I met Francois. Actually, he was my neighbor. And man, we go fighting at first, going back and forth and kicking up dust. Me and my brothers, him, that sister Rashina, and them. And over time, the bond grew, and from there, it exploded. You know.
Absolutely. And like most growing up in Montbello, whoever you grew up on the street with, next door neighbor, you sort of became family just by nature. And the community in of itself became close knit. So that's sort of like an unspoken rule. You just had to have each other's back being from Montbello. We had some challenging times from elementary school. I remember we would get up in the morning, we go steal bikes every now and then. We go steal some stuff from Safeway. You know, that period and that season, I think, sort of set us up. Can you talk a little bit about, you know, some of the things that you were dealing with that sort of led you into the lifestyle that it led you into?
Well, yeah, like you said, we started out. We would go steal cars, breaking the breaking the houses, breaking the cars, steal bikes. The stuff we would steal, we would go sell it, and sure, we go to Crown Market, spend $50-$60 in little snacks. And we'd do things like growing up. I know our mom loved us to the best they could. Our moms loved us. But it was the 80s and 90s, right? Things were different back then. And we didn't have too many male role models out there. So we did what we did best and what we wanted to do. And as I said in the last interview, I'm not proud of this now as a man, but back then I didn't want to be a cop or a fireman or a businessman growing up. I wanted to be a drug dealer. And I wanted to have the nice car and all that. And as time went on, I did some juvenile time. I got out and I pursued that dream, my goal, and I became that drug dealer. And I was good at it, and which led me to my crime now.
And I think for most in growing up in those types of environments, it's hard not to see the drug dealer and want that. It's hard not to see the hustlers and want that, the pimps and not want that, because it was what we were exposed to, and that was our definition of success in a lot of ways. We sitting on the block, and you see who's rolling up the street back then it was the Daytons and the D's with the Trues and Vogues and so on and so forth. So that definitely did shape our culture. I think the music shaped our culture in a lot of ways. And then, like you said, not having a lot of male role models. Now, we talk about this in a lot of art when we're talking about the hood, quote unquote, the hood. But how did that shape you, and how did that affect you, and how did that steer you into the direction that it steered you into? What direction did it steer you into?
Well, it toughened me up. It made me rough around the edges. We kicked into some survival mode. Growing up, we don't have much. We're going to find a way. And as I said earlier, we were predominantly a black neighborhood back then. So we were fighting. And then finally, we were like 10, 11 years old, and we started carrying guns. Like, we didn't jump no more. And having that heart and that to it made it more that much survival rate kicking more, and it was fight or flight, and it was never flight on our end. So with that came the respect, and it just blossomed from there and amplified.
So you would say that sort of shaped you into being a little more hard. You had to be a little more hard. You had to be a little more stern. You had to hold your ground a lot. I remember you being one of the smaller back then. Small, you sort of big now. You got some weight to you. You bulked up, yeah. But back then you were probably one of the smaller. You and your brother Jason were sort of smaller. So I know they used to sort of pick on you then.
They
and you
tried
had
to pick
hold
on
you.
me.
They tried to, and you had to hold your own. But after a while, they had to come to respect you. I think I remember even when us riding bikes throughout the neighborhood, we would get pulled over by the police, and you guys and as well as myself had a sort of rapport with the police. They knew us by name because of all the cases that we had. Can you speak to sort of what did your background look like by the time you hit like 18, as far as what was on there
As for my record,
by record?
I believe I had a possession of a handgun, a couple burglaries, a couple of property crimes, things of that nature.
So I think that was sort of the norm for us.
It was.
So by the time we hit 18, we hit adulthood. We didn't have a college fund set aside for us. We didn't have anything that was sort of set up for our success. Where did that take you? What was the outcome of that? How did you become that drug dealer that you aspired to be so much?
Well, growing up, I think I can speak for all of us. We've never been dumb, right? We've always been smart. We just use it in a different way. And I decided to use that energy to sell drugs and network and get the best prices and move around. And as you said earlier, once you get that respect in the hood, you get that. And that's what helped the clientele blow up, the connect goal. I started going back and forth to California once or twice a month and getting things cheaper and coming out here. And from there, it blew up more.
Absolutely. So that's sort of, I wanted to recap and sort of bring us up to speed on how we got into the point where you were of incarceration and actually fighting for your life in the system, in the court system, and what led to the crime that you were charged with versus the crime that you were convicted of, and then the amount of time that you did. Can you talk a little bit about the situation that happened there? And thank you again for sending the condolences to the family of the victim in that case. I'm sure it means a lot to them, but we're hoping that there's healing there as well, knowing that you're a reformed person and you're where you're at now. But can you talk about what led to your incarceration?
Yeah, of course. So there was a time when I was called to go do a drug deal with a friend of mine at the Days Inn Hotel, and it was a 2005, early 2005. And when we pulled up, we go in there, and the co-defendant of mine and the victim are arguing over prices or something like of that nature. And a confrontation happened when the victim didn't want to pay a debt he owed to some friends of ours. And when that time came and that issue came up, I went to go leave the hotel room. There was a struggle. At this time, I weighed about 145, and the victim put a weapon out on me. I don't have a weapon at the time. We start wrestling over that, and the friend of mine shoots the victim 5 times. That sounds excessive. The intention wasn't to kill him, actually, because they were friends. He shot him in his leg, his legs, his buttocks, I believe, his arm. And the 5th and final shot went in his arm, out his arm, and into his heart, and actually took his life. The victim landed on me, died literally inches from my face. I had to push him off me to leave, and we left the hotel after that. About a month later, I get caught and arrested. I'm charged with felony murder, facing a life sentence plus some time. The friend of mine that actually committed the homicide, he was killed in a shootout in November 2005 with the Greeley police. And so I was given a life sentence for that because in Colorado at that time, it was a class 1, which means that it's a mandatory life sentence. If you're at the scene of a crime and you're committing a certain felony and a murder happens, you could be given a life sentence because you're just as liable for that crime.
Got you. So that's where the felony murder, I think it confused a lot of people versus first degree murder versus second degree murder. Felony murder almost sounds like you committed the crime or you committed the murder.
So felony murder, yeah, it's using the commission of a felony, and you was part of that felony when a murder happened. And
so by definition, if in this case we're committing a robbery and that is the felony in and of itself, someone happens to die, it becomes felony murder in that case, as opposed to someone premeditating a murder that they're going to go shoot someone and kill someone. What kind of sentence guidelines are behind just murder in and of itself?
For committing the actual murder?
Just for committing the actual murder, premeditated murder, or even second-degree murder where it wasn't planned?
So first-degree murder is mandatory life sentence, life without parole. Second-degree murder, I believe, is between 16 and 48 years. Mm-hmm. And felony murder, are you talking about now or how it was then?
How it was then, felony murder.
Felony murder back then was a mandatory life sentence. And actually, in my case, if I would have committed the homicidal act, it came out at trial that I would have got less time. But since I didn't commit the murder, I had to get a life sentence because I didn't take a deal that was offered to me. I had 2 deals offered to me at the time. They offered me 6 years if I write a statement. That wasn't an option. And they offered me 40 years without a statement. And to me, I was 21 years old. 40 years is a life sentence back then to me as well, so I didn't take it.
So you took it to trial.
I did.
And it sounds like the jury, by definition, convicted you of felony murder.
Yeah, I got convicted of felony murder, and I was given a life without parole plus 12 years and a DOC.
So a lot of times we don't talk about this, but when you got handed that sentence, when you took it to trial, the verdict comes out, and they hand you felony murder, and then you go to your sentencing, of course, and they give you that time. What's going through your mind? What's going through your what are you thinking when they've given you life without the possibility of parole?
Honestly, it goes back to that discussion earlier that fight or flight kicks in, and you don't got room to cry. You don't got room to feel sorry for yourself. You just got to adapt to what's coming next, right? And then that's what I did. I went into prison with the same mentality I had growing up. I might be whoopable, but I'm not punkable, which means you might be able to whoop my ass, but you ain't gonna never punk me. And I went into prison with that mentality.
That's good. So you had to prepare yourself mentally for what was to come, essentially.
Absolutely.
Was there any thought in your mind that you, at that time, that you wasn't going to have to do that amount of time, or that you were going, that anything was possible?
Man, going into it, at first, the first couple of years are kind of a blur. You just got to adapt to the surroundings. You got to know the schedule, the routine, what's what, who's who. You don't have room to think about nothing else but that. Once it settles in, though, you hear stories about people getting out of prison, but not many with that much time. So, not really at first. I didn't. I just kind of accepted it and always fought. But early into my sentence, some old timers let me know, like, hey, you might give your time back, you might not. But if you do, it's going to take a minute. You're going to sit down for a little bit. Yeah. So don't think you're going to know time soon. So that was kind of always in my head, which kind of helped me move forward in there.
So that gave you a little bit of hope. What would you say was was there anything else that gave you hope, or your why on sort of trying to fight this thing out?
My daughters. I got 2 daughters. Shout out to them. I love them with my whole heart. They're my everything. They're 21 and 20 now. They're babies when I got locked up. And no matter what I was going through in there, I knew no matter what, I'm their dad. Yeah. And I need to be there for them in one way, even if it's just mentally and emotionally. And they kept me fighting no matter what.
How old were they when you got incarcerated?
They were 1 and 2.
1 and 2. So 19 years later, how did you maintain the relationship with them, or the communication with them, and what did that look like?
I always wrote them letters. I sent them gifts on their birthdays, on the holidays, on Christmas. My mom and other people would bring them to visit me over the years. So we always had a continuous relationship, which I'm super grateful for, because when I got out, it wasn't awkward to be around them, although we have to get to know each other again, right? Because they just know me from visiting in prison for a couple hours at a time. And I just know them for the same thing. So, and now I'm out and I'm free, and they're grown women. So to adapt and get to know each other again, and we're enjoying that process right now as we speak.
That's good. That's good. During that amount of time and doing that amount of time comes with a lot of mental warfare, I'm sure. Can you speak to sort of some of the mental challenges you faced over, going through that time period, and sort of what caused that, and what were some of your mechanisms for healing or therapy, if you will?
So going into it, I had several challenges, because for me personally, I did my whole time unaffiliated. I didn't get involved in politics all the way. I didn't. I was still involved in politics. I'm doing a life sentence. So I needed to learn how to move around who and how. Absolutely. But at the end of the day, I wasn't in a gang my whole time down. Many tried to get me involved. I chose to set on my own 10 the whole time, which everybody respected. But when you're doing life in prison, People expect you to handle it one way. Altercation, you stab them. You hit them with the lock. You don't fight. I grew up fighting. I'm not the baddest motherfucker out there, but I grew up fighting. So I was okay with fighting. And they would tell me all the time, like, man, why you keep fighting? Stab somebody. But deep down, I had that hope inside of my heart, like, man, I want to get home one day. Even if it was a clemency. I don't know what it looked like at the beginning of my sentence, but I knew I wanted that for myself and my kids. So I refrained from that. Moving forward, there were times when, and this is 100%, is God right now. I know this 100%. Between 3 and 5 times, I was prepared to do that. And I would go to the yard with a knife or have one ready to go before they call yard. And every time them happened, something happened. Yard got canceled when we didn't go, or when I was waiting to go to yard. And when I did go to yard and have it, the person didn't show up. And I'm just super grateful that them ended the way they did.
You say by God's grace, it didn't have to go down, but you was prepared if it did.
Absolutely.
And I think when we talk about prison culture or being incarcerated, it's certainly a culture that sometimes you have to abide by or in order to survive. And that's what I think you're talking about. The mental aspect of it, you see things and things that you can't forget. And it's almost a sense of PTSD. Would you say that there's therapy needed there?
Well, 100% it is. And it's not a sense of PTSD. It definitely is a sense of it. Because when you, and at the time, it's like when we were growing up, right? We do certain things. That's normal to us. We grow up and we raise our kids and we want the best for them. We're like, damn, I don't want my kids to be around what we did. And you realize it's not normal. It was normal to us at the time. And prison becomes the same thing, right? You're in there and they're like, hey, go shower. Why was up? They're going to stab so-and-so. Oh, shit. I thought that was a homie. He ain't no good. Well, all right. And you don't think twice. You go shower, wait for it to happen. Rather, he's next to you on the phone in the chow hall line. Next to you eating, they get him and you're right there. You see it. Nothing you can do about it. You prone out, go to your room. After locking, you come out like it never happened. You don't lose no sleep. Nothing. It becomes part of a normalcy. So it definitely is a PTSD thing. The coping mechanism I personally used to use was quotes, always positive quotes, always something. Man, I remember in my time, the fellas were all like, man, Josh, you're in denial about your time because you're always in a good mood. And I'll say, hey, bullshit. I know I got a life sentence, but I got a life no matter what. Why would I be miserable? I'm going to make the best of it, live the best I can in here, and smile every chance I get. And that was me. Like, I always seen the glasses half full in there.
That's good. I think just knowing you from our childhood and getting even into adulthood, I think that actually is something that I always admired about you as well. Even out here, always smile and laugh, and no matter what. I remember you even getting into some fights when we were younger. You get up smiling, even if you got, like you said, I might be whoopable, but I'm not punkable. That's a good quote. Because you always had heart. You always had courage. I think you and your family, that was just what you was bred in. So fast forwarding, you did your time, you 19 years, and you get, there's word, there were some people out here, legislators, fighting for the resentencing or felony murder, to change the sentencing guidelines behind felony murder. One of those people was Pete Lee. I'm sure you've had to your part in that. What were the things you were doing behind the scenes to sort of see that you came home, or to get this sentencing guideline overturned for felony murder?
So approximately 10 years ago, I started following felony murder in other states, and I seen it was changing in other states. And I started advocating. I was writing letters. I actually met Pete Lee in Fremont, but I started writing legislators, senators. I'd be chilling in the homies room, or we'd be doing whatever, and I see a legislator or a senator or a judge talking. I'd pause it, and I'm like, what you doing? They got used to that for a while, right? And I'm like, man, I'm going to write them and tell them about felony murder in Colorado. And I say that to say this, that I did this so much that when I gave my time back, I got at least 10 letters from fellas, different races, different hoods, saying, damn, man, I remember you used to always pause the TV and write names down. And you'd be always talking about getting out. Low key, we thought you was crazy. We thought that was your way of just coping with life sentence. We thought you was never getting out. But damn, man, that's crazy. You manifested it kind of. But anyway, so I would do that. And a shout out to Misty. She did a lot for me. She's a good friend of mine. During this time, well, before she came back into my life, I knew her for a while, but I would tell people in my life, hey, they're going to change this law soon, man. They've been changing it. And if people were like, oh, that's what's up. That's what's up. Not one person was like, what can I do? Yeah. Fast forward, I was doing it by myself. I was writing letters. Nobody wants to answer to a letter from a man in prison, right? But I never gave up. I still did it and did it and did it. And when Misty came into my life, I told her about that, and off top, she said, "What can I do? Let's do it." And together we advocated. I'm writing letters from prison. She's doing emails. She's doing petitions, doing stuff out here. And we pushed it for a couple of years. And they eventually passed that felony murder law to a class 2 in Colorado. Now, what happened with that was it wasn't retroactive, which means retroactive means it affects cases prior to that. So when they passed that law, it means it's on a class 2 felony now, 16 to 48, aggravated, if you get sentenced after this date.
Mm-hmm.
Now, gratefully, and I don't know exactly who's behind the scenes when this happened, but when they passed that law, people did hear me all them years. And so the Denver District Attorney had a conviction review unit coming out, and people were reaching out to them saying, "Hey, what about that guy Josh Rosales' case? You guys should look into his case." Because during this time, let me remind you that after years of messing up in prison, I started trying to become a better person. Not trying, I became a better man. I got some degrees in entrepreneurship. I got my recovery coach certification. We'll get that in a minute.
Yeah.
My mental health training, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I was in there programming, right? Not because I had to, I chose to. And some I had to fight to get into. But so anyway, so when they passed that law, it wasn't supposed to affect me. And the conviction review unit chose my case to be their first case in Denver. And they actually came to visit me, the district attorney and a guy, Norm. And we spoke for a little bit, man. And it was kind of rough at first because, mind you, at this time, I'm still doing a life sentence. It's my attorney and them two right there. And I still remember Norm says, "Man, Victoria, she followed you and she believes that you're reformed and you could do better out here." And he said, "Me, I'm just here. I think you're full of shit, man." And man, I was like, dang, I'm not going to get out. They're just here to tell me like I'm never getting out. But I was myself. I spoke to him. And fast forward at the end of that meeting, Norm was like, "Man, you normalize people in prison. Like I see things differently now. I think you will do good out here." And that meant a lot to me because I was myself. I was authentic, transparent, and it paid off by being myself. I didn't try to be nobody. I didn't try to fake. I didn't try to lie about nothing. And it really helped. When I got out, actually, Norm reached out to me and said they got the resource available if I need them, which really means a lot to me.
Absolutely. That's really good that they were able to see that. And unfortunately, there's a lot of other people that are still incarcerated that are reformed, that have changed their lives, that have become completely different people from when they went in there, but they never got the time to or the opportunity to even be able to show that or see that. So I think for the most part, and I commend you, you spoke up on their behalf and you're still speaking. Your life speaks to their behalf. Your life gives them hope. Like you just said, you getting letters and people are telling you how much hope that brought to them because you never gave up. You were taking names down. You were doing your research. You was in the law library. You were doing what needed to be done. And then you also had some advocates out here and some resources out here. I give a huge shout out to Misty Rose as well, because she's the one that reached out to me and helped coordinate the first interview with you while you had called in. We had to do about 2 different calls because the phone hung up after the first 20-minute call. We had a lot of your family, a lot of people that were supporting you, and a lot of people that signed that petition, which was myself. I personally did not know about felony murder, but there's so many of us that know someone that was involved in the crime where someone accidentally got killed. Someone, it didn't start off that way and it wasn't supposed to end that way, but it happened. And now fast forwarding again, we get to them overturning the sentencing guidelines to felony murder. That was a huge success. We were all happy about that, and everybody thought it was retroactive. But most bills and most laws in legislature go through that first initial process of getting passed, and then is it normal? And I don't know, and forgive me for my ignorance. Do they have to go back always to make it retroactive, or is that usually what's initially suggested in the first bill?
So usually no, they're rarely retroactive actually, and I believe as we speak, I think it's People versus Sellers right now, and that's going to be ruled on by the end of the year to see if it's retroactive or not, because felony murder, it's unfair law, right? Like we got to take accountability for our roles, but to be given a life sentence for murder you didn't commit, that's a harsh pill to swallow. And as you did mention, Francois, there's some good people in prison still, and I do want to be advocate for them and help them get out as well. and be productive out here, which is a good burden I'm willing to have on my shoulders to be successful and do things to show that there's good people back there behind them walls that get out and make a difference in society.
Absolutely. I think the first steps is what you're doing with the recovery program. You got out, had a lot of people supporting you, a lot of people coming to visit, a lot of people just posting and how happy they were to see you home, myself included, Felons to Favor community included, Alex Montoya, who's been a huge advocate of yours, and also justice reform going into DRDC. You come home, and you've been home about a month now. How does it feel, and what were some of the biggest challenges you faced when upon release?
So yeah, first shout out to homie Alex Montoya and the Montoya family, man. They're excuse me, they've been there huge for me since when he first got out riding with me. I raised him growing up, but him and the family showed love. But so what happened was I was given 32 years when I got resentenced, and that was a year ago. I had to do about a little over a year after that, and I got out a month ago exactly today. And
so your life sentence got overturned and they resentenced you to 32 years. You had already did about, I think when this happened, you had already did about 17 or 18 years, correct?
I think I had 16 in then.
16 then.
Yeah.
And then you still were fighting they brought your case up. They resentenced you to 32 years. How did you get released from after 19 years and not having to do that 32 years? Good time. What was that?
So good time and earned time. May 4th of last year, I got resentenced, and I went to a couple minimum lower facility prisons, and then I got with community corrections, which I'm in right now, which is a halfway house. And but reforming and adapting out here, man, it's not too bad. The baddest thing is the technology, and it isn't the technology like we spoke about earlier. It's the fear of looking dumb. When you go into McDonald's or even Taco Bell, and they're like, I'm like, I had to order, and they're like, oh, touch that screen. I'm like, man, what do I do now? And not much is cash out here. Everything is cards. So you got to adapt to that. But once you figure that out, it's kind of common sense. Besides that, just moving around, I already got my ID. I was happy to do that. I turned my first birthday out in 20 years. I turned 41 August 10th, so that was cool. I went to a family business. We got a plumbing company. It's called Rising Stars. So the community, Denver, Colorado, support that. My brother's real good at what he does. And as well, I just started my recovery coaching job, which I got all the qualifications for in DOC.
Wow.
And I got my office today. Well, I got it Friday, actually, but I moved in today to my own office. I'm a peer recovery coach. And mind you, this is the job that I dreamed about for the past 7 years. Like I want to do it so bad because I'm good at it. I enjoy talking to people and helping them and being like a resource broker for them people. So preparation and opportunity met, and I got it.
And that's where the success comes from. So you didn't waste any time. You came out, you hit the ground running. You had a plan. The family business, the family plumbing business. What was the name of the plumbing business again?
Rising Stars.
Rising Stars. That's right here in Denver and the surrounding areas. So if you ever need some plumbing services, Rising Stars is who you're going to call. In addition, recovery. Tell us about the recovery program and how that works, and the name of that business again.
So I work with Creating Connections, and it's a team of recovery coaches where we help people. We're their friend, their ally, their resource broker. And we pretty much help them connect the dots sometimes. And sometimes it's just listening, right? You'd be surprised how a conversation with somebody where they talk most of the time, or you, I should say, you're just talking and you're venting to somebody. And at the end, they just say a couple words, how fulfilling that feels, how relieving it feels. And I enjoy doing that. So
that's dope. So what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing is you took some skill sets, some that you developed before you were incarcerated, that you strengthened while you were incarcerated. You've always been a great salesperson. You've always been a great speaker. You've always been a great, I would say, leader and mentor. Sometimes we use it for the wrong reasons, but then you also grabbed certifications in helping people with recovery and mentorship and coaching and so on and so forth. And you transferred that skill set as soon as you got out. How important is that? And how would you say someone that's incarcerated or even in a tough situation would do that? Well, how would you suggest they do that?
Well, if you're in DOC, for sure, there's plenty of opportunities if you want them. And out here too, right? There's so many opportunities. So I got the recovery coach qualifications. I got the mental health first aid training, and I did. You're right. I started out in prison as a mentor. Youngsters would come into prison, and I'll just keep it real with them. And they would always say, "Man, Josh is the best mentor because I ain't the police, I ain't the staff, I ain't none of that. I'm a convict just like you. I'm gonna keep 100 with you. If you want to do better, there's opportunities, there's classes, there's groups. Get out. You got kids? Yeah, okay. Check this out. Good time, earn time. This is what you do. If you want to fuck up, your home is over there. Gangbang shit's over here. Whatever you want to do is here. There's a seat for every ass.
Opportunity is waiting for you on that side.
No matter
too.
what you want to do, yeah. But you'd be surprised how many people in prison, they want to change, but they're afraid of what people would think about it. So when they say good dudes doing it, when they see that, they're more apt and prone to come over to that side and do good, knowing you could keep your integrity, your loyalty, all that 100 and still be a better person.
That's good. That's good. I love that you kept in communication with your daughters and with your family. When we get incarcerated or someone's gone that long, there's always a need for healing and therapy and recovery. In that sense, how has that been for you with your daughters and with the family?
Honestly, mostly my daughters, right? My brother, bro, you know, Poco, I love him to death. That's my best friend. He did, a little over 10 years. He's there too, but my daughters is my world, my priority. I went bowling with them, went to Dave & Buster's with them. And like you said earlier too, like I wasn't there in constant communication with them. So it wasn't too bad, but I've been trying to do like at least once a week, go out with them and build that bond. Cause they didn't talk for a couple of years. They got different moms. And, I wasn't gonna let it happen gradually, but it happened faster than I thought, which I'm super grateful for that. But the bond with them is super amazing, man. It's fun getting to know them and see them get to know me. They think I'm just some old ass. I'm dad to them, right? So I'm old. Oh, that's dad. But I say some stuff like, and I said something that I think I was eating and I was like, oh, this is fire. This is gas. And my daughter started cracking up. She was like, what'd you just say? I was like, yeah, that's good. What? But, you know, to them, I'm dad. But it feels good us getting to know each other all over again.
That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. So what's the plan? We got the plumbing business, the family plumbing business. We got the recovery business. Do we see Josh Rosales mentoring in schools or speaking, or where do we see him going with that gift?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. This is one of the huge platform right here, right? And I appreciate this opportunity. But yeah, eventually I do want to go to schools and talk to youth about the past. Cause I was there. I was that kid in school, bad as hell. I want to go to juvenile facilities and talk to kids about what's next. I also did juvenile time, and I also want to go to prisons to let people know there's hope out here, not to give up. I would like to speak with legislators and senators about passing laws, because these laws they're passing and putting people away for area codes. They're giving people hundreds of years that can be changed, that can be reformed, right? I'm not saying we shouldn't be consequenced. There's consequences for our actions. I agree with that. But to throw somebody away and forget about them, that's not right. There's some people in prison that I wouldn't want around my family, but there's also some good dudes in there that babysit my kids. Like, there's good dudes in there that deserve a second chance as well. And I would like to be that voice and that role model to show that there's plenty of people like me in there still.
That's good. One of the scriptures that Felons to Favor lives by is that, behold, old things have passed away and all things have become new. I think nothing speaks more to that than the way that your mindset is new, the way that your lifestyle is new, the way that you're moving and how you're moving so much differently from your past. If you had an opportunity to speak to Josh Rosales, the 20-20-year-old Josh Rosales, what would you tell him? What would you tell him?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's probably cliche, but man, the words and actions you do, everything you say and do, everything affects somebody in one way or another. Powerful as hell. Your words are super powerful. Your actions are super powerful. So when you move and you say things, think about it before you think, right? So now I use the tools I learned in some of the classes, which is seek first to understand and then be understood. I learned that in 7 Habits, as well as listen to understand. Don't listen to respond. That's cold, because before we're listening, we're like, yeah, but ready for that rebuttal. But when you're trying to listen to understand somebody, it changes the whole dynamic of the conversation. And moving forward, that's what helps me out here. Since I've been out here, like, I'm super grateful, humble, blessed to be out here in this world again, where they counted me out. I was supposed to never get out of prison. Actually, just a year and a half ago, I was doing life without parole. As a matter of fact, I got a paper in my room. It says my parole date was the year 9,998.
My God.
2024. Now I'm out. Blessed. Glory to God for sure.
Glory to God. Glory to God. Glory to God. This is Josh Rosales. We've had a pleasure speaking with you. We've been enlightened. We've been encouraged. We've been motivated. If you haven't been motivated, you need to rewatch this again and again and again. For those that are watching that may not be able to relate exactly, please share this and send this to somebody. Josh, if there was one last thing, if there was a poem, a book, or a saying, you gave us a couple quotes, you gave us a lot of nuggets. If there was anything that you could give before we end this interview, what would it be?
So I'll bring up a book. So when I had that meeting I mentioned earlier with the district attorney, she mentioned a book to me, and when it was the Fourth Agreement. Oh no, excuse me, the Fifth Agreement, and there's one before that called the Four Agreements. And one of them agreements are don't take everything personal. Code. I'm gonna say that again. Don't take everything personal. That changed my whole life, because I used to take everything personal. If I'm in a conversation and you walk up and don't say excuse me, I want the fade. You just disrespected me. If I'm walking and you're within arm's length and you brush me and don't say excuse me, we're fading up. You just disrespected me all the way. I had to rewind and learn, like, damn. What I tell myself is don't flatter yourself. It ain't about you. And that's what helps me get through, because at the end of the day, somebody's just oblivious. They're not intentionally disrespecting us or doing things most of the time, right? That so much would be avoided if we all live by that. And when she recommended that book, my daughter sent it to me when I asked her to, and it changed my whole life, right? So, and I also want to end this and say this, like, and anything's possible. Like I said, I was doing a life sentence. I was supposed to never get out. I never gave up, but it started with that seed of hope and change, and I wanted to be a better person. And it didn't happen overnight. It took years. I'm still changing, but it takes courage to do that. But when you start accepting that new you learn you can still keep your morals, your ethics, the code. You can stick by the code. Do everything right still and be a better person. And it feels so much better to be the best version of yourself. It feels amazing. So I want to end on that note.
That's good. That's good. Thank you so much for coming on, Josh. Certainly appreciate the transparency, the level of truthfulness and realness that you provided. And we're definitely having you back on. We'll definitely be working together with Felons to Favor. You are definitely one of our pioneers in this thing for justice reform and overturning some sentences. Now it's time to bring a lot more people home, like you said, that deserve to come home. Thank you for coming on. We appreciate it, Josh.
Yes, sir. With a business plan that don't include snow flurries. But if you lock down, it's no service. Unless you talk to the warden.